Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. My guest today is Fatou Bensouda. She is the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where she joins us from. Thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you, too. Thank you for having me.
I want to begin, Mrs. Bensouda, with the situation in Libya. We're seeing fighting as we speak. Marshal Khalifa Haftar has gone on offense against the capital, Tripoli. You have a warrant against one of his lieutenants, Mahmoud al-Warfali, suspected of executing prisoners and filming them. He's actually been promoted by Marshal Haftar. It seems that the marshal is making a mockery of the International Criminal Court.
Our work in Libya, of course, continues. We're still investigating there. And in my last report to the UN Security Council, I have highlighted the fact that there are still arrest warrants that are pending against those who have been indicted by the ICC. El-Walfali is one of them. I have also noted with grave concern that even though the warrants were out against, in fact, 2 warrants are out against him now, he has been promoted by Haftar, and that we look at this as being very serious and called on General Haftar to arrest and surrender El-Walfali to the ICC. We also sought the assistance of any state who could to be able to ensure the arrest of Al-Fali and to bring him to the ICC for trial.
So the fact that Marshal Haftar did not obey and actually promoted him, could this mean that you could go against Marshal Haftar, who's at the helm of the chain of command?
Well, we will only go, after, of course, looking at the situation very seriously. What we look for is whether crimes against the crimes under the Rome Statute have been committed by anyone, whosoever, and this is part of the analysis that we are making in the Libya situation.
I want to get now to the case against the former Ivorian president Laurent Gbagbo, his youth minister Charles Blé Goudé. A few months ago, judges ruled that they should be acquitted of crimes against humanity. During the post-electoral crisis in 2010, 2011, you're appealing this ruling, but clearly this was a major blow to you because this was a very symbolic case.
The situation in Côte d'Ivoire, as you have rightly said, is still being looked at by the office and by the court. You're right. Recently, there was the acquittal of Mr. Gbagbo and Mr. Blé Goudé. As you know, I have already appealed that decision. It is currently before the judges of the ICC, and they will decide on this. We do expect, we are hoping for a positive result, but this is a matter that is before the judges, and I cannot say anything more than that.
Right, because some have said that it's a humiliation for your office because the defense did not even present its case and that it collapsed on its own.
I do not know whether this is the way I want it to be stated. Indeed, the judges the judges that acquitted have decided on a process that we are saying that legal errors have been committed. And this is the grounds of our appeal before the appeals chamber, that serious legal errors have been committed, and this has resulted in the acquittals. We will wait for the judges to decide on whether this is the situation or not.
Is the investigation of the other camps still going on? Nothing has happened on that front.
Investigations are going on, and I just want to again be clear on that. I have said from the very beginning that both sides to the conflict will be investigated. And I am committed to that, and this is ongoing. It is not yet time for me to go public with the results of those investigations, but at the appropriate time, I will do so. But I can assure you that investigations are going on and it's advancing.
I want to get to the issue of Palestine. Preliminary probe has been open since 2015. You said in your most recent report about your activities that a decision about whether to make it a formal investigation should be taken soon. Obviously, lots of people have grown impatient. How soon will you make a decision on that issue, which is obviously a very controversial one?
As I said in my preliminary activities report, decision will be made soon because I have come to a point in the preliminary examination where I am concluding that it's time for me to make a decision in that particular situation. I have always stayed away from giving timelines and dates, and I will also do that in this particular case. But all I can re-emphasize is to say that a decision is coming quite soon.
Right.
Regarding the conclusion of that preliminary examinations.
Right. Some are saying that there's been pressure on you, on the court, by the U.S. about this case and also about another case that's been very sensitive and controversial, the one about Afghanistan, about potential crimes committed by Afghan troops, the Taliban, but also U.S. troops. And you have been barred from entering the U.S. For that very reason. Is the court facing political pressures from the U.S. about those two probes?
Pressure will always be applied.
Especially by the U.S.
Always indicate that in this particular case, as you're saying with respect to Afghanistan, indeed there has been publicly announced sanctions that will be imposed on the court, on my office, on my person, with respect to that situation. But I just want to emphasize again that this does not deter me or deter my office from exercising our mandate as we should. So we are progressing with that. As you know, recently there was the appeal that was being heard by the appeals chamber, and a decision is yet to be taken about the rejection of my request for authorization to open investigation into the situation in Afghanistan. So this is a matter that is still before the court. Indeed, I have been banned from entering the U.S. except on UN business, which I have been conducting recently. In fact, I am due to present my report again very soon on Darfur, Sudan.
Have you called on the administration to lift that ban against you?
Say again?
Have you called on the Trump administration to lift that travel ban on you and your team?
Well, this is a matter that my office has taken up, and I think we have also contacted the UN legal office to look into this matter. So it's a matter that is being dealt with institutionally. As you know, the sanctions are being made against the institution as a whole.
Right. I want to get quickly to the situation in Myanmar. This is a probe that was formally opened this year. There's a parallel case that was discussed in recent days before the International Court of Justice, also in The Hague. Could there be warrants issued against senior generals from Myanmar because of the repression against the Rohingya minority?
We have not come to that stage yet. You already know that the investigation was just authorized not too long ago by the chamber, and I have opened investigations into that situation. So we are at the very beginning of our investigations, and it is premature to determine who warrants of arrest will be issued against. As you know, we had to deal with the jurisdictional issue of whether we could exercise jurisdiction in the situation in Myanmar, Bangladesh, by virtue of the fact that some of the elements of the crime of persecution were committed also or crystallized in Bangladesh, which is a state party to the Rome Statute. And this application was made last year, and the judges have already decided that there was indeed a jurisdiction for the ICC, and I proceeded to request for authorization to open investigations. This was also granted, and we are at the very beginning of that investigations.
Just very quickly, on the Philippines, there is also a preliminary probe because of the so-called war on drugs declared by President Rodrigo Duterte. Since he is the one who is at the helm of all this and is actually proud of this, this is clearly an investigation, if it's formalized, that would target him directly.
I just want to, again, make something clear with respect to preliminary examinations. It's not an investigation, definitely. It's just to determine whether certain criteria with respect to jurisdiction, interest of justice, gravity, complementarity are met. It is once this process is concluded that investigations usually is opened after seeking authorization from the chamber. And this is where we are. We are now in the preliminary examination phase. We've not yet opened investigations. We've not concluded yet the preliminary examination phase. So we will just have to wait and see. Once we have concluded that preliminary examination phase, we will take the next steps.
Okay, Fatou Bensouda, that's all we have time for. I want to thank you very much for being with us today from the International Criminal Court in The Hague. And thank you very much for watching this interview here on France 24.